What's up, everybody? It's Joe with J Blake Photo. I want to interrupt our regularly scheduled program to talk about what Apple released today via press release and via the Apple Store. We've got new MacBooks. We've got a new MacBook Air. We've got a new MacBook Pro. And it's time that we say goodbye to the MacBook. All right, so I've got apple.com fired up here. We're going to take a look at it in just a minute, but let's just real quick review. So Apple had, as of last night, 3 different MacBooks. They had the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the MacBook, a lot of people call it the MacBook Nothing. I don't count the MacBook Escape as its own MacBook because it's a MacBook Pro. We might not agree that it's a MacBook Pro because it really doesn't have the kind of specs or stats that you normally see in a Pro MacBook, but that's what Apple calls it, so that's what I'm going to call it. The MacBook Air was revitalized last year with a new chassis, a new design, new Retina screen. Everybody was just begging for a MacBook Air with a Retina screen, so they finally gave it to us. So we got the MacBook Air. The 2 things that a lot of people were upset about with the MacBook Air, number 1, it did come with the butterfly keyboard. For those of you who have watched the many videos that I've done on my 2015 MacBook Pro, you know that I bought that laptop specifically to avoid the butterfly keyboard. It had the butterfly keyboard, and it also was $12.99. And I think a lot of people were hoping that it would stay at that $11.99, $10.99, $9.99 price point. But we got a new MacBook Air today we're going to talk about. And then you have the MacBook. Released a couple of years ago, super thin, super light, super small, extremely long battery life, but was plagued with again, the butterfly keyboard. That's going to be a trend. The butterfly keyboard, and then also it came with very, very low spec Intel chips. Originally the M3 and M5, which were then rebranded to be part of the Core i3, Core i5 family, but they're still not up to that level of power. They're super low power, and just running Chrome on them would honestly cause them to start to stutter and fail. They're just not great. It was also really expensive. And then you have the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro was, again, revitalized in 2016 with the new thin and light and slim design, with the improved screen, with, again, the butterfly keyboard, the really big glass trackpad, and the USB 3.1, USB-C Thunderbolt ports on either side. That laptop has been maligned primarily because of that keyboard, but also because of the fact that to get it to work, you need dongles for everything. The USB-C connectors are powerful and they provide Thunderbolt functionality, but you need dongles to do pretty much everything. They pulled the SD card slot out. They pulled the HDMI port out. You charge through USB-C. Again, that's why I bought this thing. Because it gives me all the ports that I need, including an SD card reader. Within the MacBook Pro lineup, you had what people called the MacBook Escape. Because the MacBook Pro in 2016, when it came out, it came with the Touch Bar. And the Touch Bar is a iOS ARM chip driven kind of mini computer that acts as an extension of your keyboard, and it replaces your function keys as the top row. It also includes Touch ID to improve the security for login, passwords, and purchasing on the Mac. And it's an OLED kind of strip that can be modified and come up with kind of custom bars depending on the application that you're running in. Some people love it. Some people don't think that it's really necessary. I've seen some weird glitches, but I do like the fact that they had Touch ID on the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Escape was the low end of the MacBook Pro line. It was, I think, $12 or $13.99, and it did not include that strip. It included a normal function key setup with an escape key on the far left-hand side like you find on a normal keyboard, which is why they called it the MacBook Pro Escape. versus the MacBook Pro with Touch Bar. Okay, so that was all last night. You had a MacBook Air with a keyboard that a lot of people didn't like and a price that was a little too high, a MacBook with a keyboard that no one liked, a price that was too high, and a processor that wasn't super powerful. And you had a MacBook Pro that is expensive, doesn't have the ports that people need, has a keyboard that people don't like, and a number of other issues that people have had with that MacBook, especially the fact that the low-end model doesn't come with the Touch Bar, although some people still like that. Okay, so fast forward to this morning. Apple released 2 new versions of the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro, and they killed, destroyed the MacBook. So there's no longer a MacBook in Apple's lineup. MacBook Air is now the thinnest, lightest laptop that you can buy from Apple, which between you and me, that's how it should be. So we've got the MacBook Air with updated specs and a new price. And we've got the MacBook Pro now with the low end of the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Escape is gone. And the MacBook Pro at the low end now also has the Touch Bar. So I thought that we would jump in and just kind of take a look at these just a little bit and see what some of the specs are on these laptops. So starting with the MacBook Air, I wanted to just kind of jump in and see what we've got. Now this marketing is pretty much what we saw before, nothing super new, although you can see that new price point, that $1099 price point, which is a $200 drop from the previous model. It's still got that Retina display with a 13.3 inch screen. One change that they did make to the display is they did add True Tone. So it now has the sensors necessary to adaptively change based on the white levels in the environment. So if you're in a super blue light environment, it'll adjust, or maybe if you're in kind of more of a sunset, incandescent yellow, warmer light environment, it'll change for that as well. It's also got Touch ID, which it had before. That's not a new improvement. And here's the thing where we kind of stop for a second. You may have noticed that in every laptop mention, the keyboard is not good. The keyboard is bad. And I don't just mean the way it works, because engineering wise, it is a failure. It fails every single time. Your rate of failure is very high. We know that because Apple has a pretty ubiquitous repair program for this keyboard. The new laptops that came out today are already eligible for the repair program. That should tell you something. This keyboard is bad. Some people love typing on it, some people don't. I personally don't. I could probably get used to it, to be quite honest. It's not the end of the world, but it is a liability at its failure rate, and they have not yet replaced it, although there's word that down the line they may. So we've still got that same keyboard with the Force touchpad. So I'm going to go ahead and click buy, and I want to see just kind of what we're looking at price-wise. We've got the 13-inch. So we're still looking at the 13-inch. It's got a 1.6 dual-core Core i5 processor, and it's got the 8th generation Core i5 in it. Comes standard with 128 gigabytes of storage. That's not enough, so you're going to need to bump that up. But when you click on selecting even the low-end model, the 1099 model, and you look down at increasing the storage, you'll notice that these storage prices are half what they used to be. It used to be $400 to increase to 256 gig, $800 for 512, $1,600 or $1,200 rather for 1 terabyte. Actually, there was a even more expensive, I think 1.5 terabyte model available that they've since eliminated, and I believe that this is across all their models. So the Air gets a great update with a True Tone display and now a different, better price at $1099. The main reason why you want to try and hit that lower price point isn't just for consumers. Primarily, it's for the education market. It's for schools and it's for students. So in addition to this, Apple has announced that there is now an option to purchase this laptop instead of at $1099 at $999. When the MacBook Air was re-released last year, everybody was screaming, we need a $1,000 MacBook. Where is the $1,000 MacBook? It wasn't going to be the MacBook Escape. It wasn't going to be the MacBook Nothing. We needed something. This is now that $1,000 MacBook. at $1,000 with these specs, this is a great machine. I would upgrade the storage. I might upgrade the RAM, but if somebody comes to me and says, okay, I'm sending my kid to college next year, what do I need to buy? This is the laptop. It'll last them all 4 years as long as they don't throw it down a flight of stairs. Get AppleCare though, and it'll last them the whole time, and it'll run fast and smooth the whole time. It'll do pretty much everything they need to do, unless they're doing, serious compositions in Final Cut, and even then, hook up an eGPU and you're done. Okay, so now we know that the MacBook Nothing is gone, but I want to go and take a quick look at the MacBook Pro, and I want to see what we've got. So the other thing that was enhanced in the MacBook Escape, in addition to having the touch bar added, and we're going to go into buy here, and we're going to look at the 13-inch here. So there's our entry level with the 1.4 gigahertz quad-core processor. So in addition to having the touch bar added, it also was upgraded to the 8th generation from the 7th generation. So now it is running Coffee Lake Core i5 processors, upgradable up to Core i7 in the 13-inch, and it now starts at $1,299. So we see an improvement in the processor technology, we see an improvement in the features with now the touch bar, and we get Touch ID on the touch bar without an increase in price. And that is a great thing. It's always good to see new stuff and not see an increase in price. And if we go into select this particular model and we go down to upgrade, you can upgrade to a 1.7 gigahertz quad core. And it's got a turbo boost top frequency of 4.5 that it'll probably do for about 10 seconds. You can upgrade it to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you can go up to that 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes of SSD storage. That's super fast PCIe, NVMe storage on this MacBook. And the prices for that, while still higher than what you would pay retail for an NVMe drive, when you calculate the Apple tax and you look at the prices on this stuff, this is actually pretty good. This is half what you would have paid 24 hours ago. So that's it. That's the update that we got today from Apple. The MacBook is no longer. Long live the MacBook Air as the new reigning champion at $999 for education customers, as the best deal in Mac world. And the new MacBook Pro at the low end at $1,299 with the touch bar, with the modern Intel processors, and significantly reduced storage costs. You can actually, if you go into, say, the Mac Mini and go to purchase here, and then go into here, if we just pick the first line model and go down to storage, you can see that those storage upgrades have been standardized across the board. They are reduced by 50%. That's great. Every single Mac now has cheaper memory. I hope you didn't buy a Mac 6 weeks ago and max out the memory, because you spent about $1,000 more than you would have had you done it today. So I'm sorry if that happened to you. Again, that's why I'm really glad that I bought my 2015 MacBook Pro and an aftermarket SSD and upgraded it myself, because I paid considerably less for all of that. Anyway, I wanted to just jump in and chat about this because I thought that this was really interesting. I saw a lot of people chatting about it today on Twitter, and I thought that it was a really cool thing. I'm glad that the MacBook showed up to show us how thin that they could get, and then I'm glad that they said it's too thin. It's not enough power on the CPU. It's not enough. It's not enough. And the MacBook Air is back and here to stay. And then the MacBook Pro has been standardized across the line. And now we have cheaper storage also across the line. So we'll see what else we get from Apple. We've been seeing lots of releases like this where they don't even do an event. They just update the store and boom, we all start talking about it. So I'm kind of curious what else we have in store this year, since it seems like they're no longer locked to events. We always talk about, okay, are we going to get new MacBooks at the September event, at the October event, at the March event, at the June WWDC event? But now that seems to be completely uncoupled, except for super new stuff like the Mac Pro or a new MacBook design. But updates seem to be coming on the regular, which is great because for years we didn't get that. And I'm really happy to see that we're getting consistent updates from Apple, and I hope that continues. Thanks again for watching this video. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I'm curious and I'd love to see you put this in the comments. What is the number one change that you would look for Apple to make? Is it a lower price? Is it a specific feature? You know, maybe it's NVIDIA cards in their laptops. I'm really kind of curious what you would love to see in the Apple lineup. So go ahead and throw that down in the comments, and then you know, go and hit like on this video. Go and hit subscribe if you're not already to my channel. Super exciting day in Apple world. As a Mac user, I'm excited. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next video.